Welcome everybody to B&B Movie Reviews. We are here to talk about the latest movie from Alex Garland, that is Civil War. Brad, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. It's been a day since we've watched this movie. I've been able to recover a little.
A little, I know. Yeah, this movie, it rocked me. I'll say that it definitely rocked me, and we'll get into it. Let me go ahead and read the synopsis for Civil War. This is starring who is in this movie? We have Kristen Dunst, we have Wagner Moura, Nick Offerman, Stephen McKinley Henderson, and Kelly Spaney. So this is a movie that a journey across a dystopian future America, following a team of military embedded journalists as they race against time to reach DC before rebel factions descend upon the White House. So this might be
Bryan,
one of the most terrifying road trip movies I think I've seen in a long time.
is it actually a dystopian future, or is it,
No.
as Stan Lee would say, the world outside our window? I like a little more gloss with my dystopia. Planet of the Apes, 28 Days Later. I need some distance.
Yeah,
This is a dystopia that is far too crystal clear.
Yeah, that's the scary thing about this movie. And this movie is really scary. And it's interesting. I guess we could kind of start with Alex Garland. And I want to go to some comments that he made as far as like leading up to the release of this movie, where the movie comes out this weekend. And there's been a lot of talk about we have a movie called Civil War. It's easy for the public to say, okay, this is a movie that's picking sides. And Alex Garland has come out in interviews talking specifically about, this movie doesn't really take a stance as far as like his direction and what he's trying to tell.
Yeah, I call absolute shenanigans on that, but okay. Yeah, sure.
So, but let's get into it, because I guess the movie does focus on photojournalists that are going from New York to DC, and to tell the story from a photojournalism point of view, where they even state in the movie that journalism, they have to be impartial, because they're supposed to present the news, they're supposed to present this, and then you let the people kind of decide and and have the conversation about that. And then in that kind of that same respect, Alex Garland feels like he's kind of doing that with the film itself.
I don't believe so. I really don't. I really don't think it. I think the movie absolutely does have a point of view.
Yeah.
I think sides are being chosen in the filming of this movie, but I also think that the part of the point of this movie is it doesn't matter what your intentions are.
Yeah.
The audience is going to decide what the film means for themselves. I think
exactly.
Somebody on the right could watch this and go like, yeah, no, this is a right-wing manifesto, and I think somebody on the left could watch this and go like, no, this plays into my liberal leanings. To me, honestly, like trying to figure out whether or not it is right-leaning or left-leaning is not as interesting to me, nor is it, I think, really the core discussion that is occurring in the film. Like we talked about this before we went into this movie. Like, I did not want to watch Civil War. I am not in a place where I'm going to enjoy this movie. I don't think there are many Americans who are going to really enjoy this movie right now. Like, talk to us in a year, talk to us in 10 years about what we actually think about Civil War. But we're so close to an election right now, and the country feels as divided as it's ever been.
Yeah.
And like, I just was not ready to watch this film, but maybe I was never ready to watch this film.
You're right. The movie does have a point of view, but I do like the direction that Alex Garland is taking with this film. It's very unflinching with its imagery. And that was the one thing that I guess it's something I would think that you would expect going into a movie like this, but it's something that I necessarily wasn't prepared to see, in the way that he kind of shows a lot of the violence and how graphic the violence can actually get. And I like the fact that in the way we saw it in IMAX, where you can't escape it, it's like you have to see these images. You can't look away. But I think that was a daring way for him to kind of tell this story through the visuals, especially with a lot of the kind of snapshots and things that he shows.
Well, the perspective of the film are these three journalists, or four journalists,
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
with the newbie played by Kaylee Spaney joining the troupe. And if you're going to have three journalists and two of them be war photographers, like their whole purpose is to document the most horrible acts that people commit upon each other. And
yeah,
so that's the movie you were walking in on. You're going to watch people suffer, and the point of the movie in a lot of ways is to watch people suffer.
yeah,
And again, getting back to what I think this film is actually about is, Kirsten Dunst as Lee, the photographer. She's seen the worst of humanity. She's photographed the worst of humanity. She states at one point in the film, like, she's always imagined that when she takes a photograph of something awful, she sends it back to the readers as a warning, to
mm,
learn from this. And
yeah,
that, to me, is what Civil War is actually about. What is the purpose of journalism? What
okay,
is the purpose of art? When you watch Civil War, are people paying attention? Does it have the ability to affect the hearts and minds of its viewers?
yeah, and that's the difficult question to answer, because even in our screening of it, you could feel that maybe it's not affecting or penetrating the
Definitely
hearts
not
and minds.
everybody.
Yeah, it's not penetrating the hearts and minds of a lot of people, and that's the scary thing about watching this. But it's interesting because when the movie was over and we were talking about it, you had mentioned something that I think is very apt to this conversation, as far as like how people will respond to this movie, as far as like especially with the aspect of photojournalism, where we as individuals and as a society and as a country are going to kind of bring our kind of ideology to the movie. So we all will have different, opinions about how we see Civil War and how we react to it and how we respond to it. But I think all of us, and I think that's one of the great things about it, is because it's going to spark a lot of different conversations because of what we're bringing to the movie. And even what you said earlier in this review, it reminds me of something what Spielberg said about when somebody releases something to the people, it's no longer there. So like you were saying, Alex Garland, he may have had a certain intention with what he was trying to do with this movie. But once you put it out there and it's given to us, it's no longer his, as far as like what his intentions were.
I recently had a conversation with a cartoonist named Becky Cloonan about their new book, Somna.
Okay.
And we were talking about how a story is never one story. A story is many stories.
Yeah.
The story is the one imagined by its author. It's a story that, in the case of movies, is imagined by many people collaborating to make it happen. And then
Yeah.
it's the story that each audience member imagines it to be itself. So like Civil War is one thing to me, and it's a totally different thing for you and everybody else sitting in that theater.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
the exciting thing, and also the scary thing about art. What are we doing with art? Like, if all we're doing is basing our political decisions on our emotions,
Yeah.
if we refuse to have our minds and hearts changed, then what the hell are we doing at all, right?
Yeah.
Now, I challenge that thought that I was really wrestling with coming out of this film with a quote that Boots Riley once said after a
Mm,
screening of Sorry to Bother You, where he did not see that film as a device to change minds, but as a rallying cry. So, like, I don't think necessarily every movie is designed to change minds. I think movies can be designed to
yeah.
rally around. And so it's really, for me, it's deciding what is Civil War.
Mhm.
Is it trying to change minds? Is it trying to rally people? I think mostly what Civil War is a question and a confrontation with what's the whole point of, you know, journalism and art.
Yeah, and I think that's told, that specific story is told really well through the characters that we talked about, Lee and Jesse. Lee is the kind of like, the veteran, hardened kind of war photographer, that we talked about that Kirsten Dunst plays, and then we also have Kaylee Spaney, coming off of Priscilla, A24, Sofia Coppola movie, and
totally different in this film. I never
oh,
would have recognized her unless you had told me.
yeah, and she's
But you
kind of
did.
like, like the young, wide-eyed new photographer that's kind of looking to make her mark, but she doesn't really have a lot of the experience. And Lee kind of takes her under her wing, and seeing how that relationship grows and changes throughout the course of the movie. And again, not to go too deep into it, but as far as spoilers, but I found that relationship between those two characters to be really, really fascinating, and really kind of the core and the crux of a lot of the things that we've been talking about with this movie. And so I thought, using those two characters to really kind of, talk a lot about the points that you've been making, and using those characters to, as we go through this journey and as we see those arcs with those two characters, and where, the film leaves those two characters, I think is really going to be something that's going to affect people, either positively or negatively, but I think it's going to affect people in a profound way.
Yeah, I think the craft of Civil War is incredible. I think the performances are top notch. I like all of the actors in their roles, all the lead actors, but also all the supporting actors, the background. I think, great performances happening throughout the movie. I think the direction is superb. I think the effects are really strong.
Dude, the sound design.
The sound design is this is why you need to see the movie in IMAX or Dolby Atmos, because the sound design will have you jumping.
Dude, I mean, the sound design rattled me. I mean, there's one specific cut, and we talked about it, that it just, when it hits, like, it literally will have you jump out of your seat. And it's just so effective. I mean, you're right. That's one of the reasons you want to see this in IMAX, in Dolby Atmos sound, whatever the best premium format you could watch this in. The sound design will rattle you. It will absolutely rattle you.
Yeah, though, like, we recently reviewed Monkey Man on the main show on PGC TV, and we were talking about how, like, that's a film like you want to see with a crowd, you want, like, to engage with the audience and the temperature in the room. And I did find myself, I was very glad that I saw it in IMAX with like that incredible sound and that incredible picture. But I did find myself like, this might be one of those movies where I don't actually enjoy watching with an audience, because I was so distracted by how people were reacting to sequences differently. I think at the same time, that distraction, that uncomfortableness, that electricity that I was experiencing, going like, oh, why is that person laughing there? Oh, why did that person, exhale there? I was so keyed in with how people were reacting to the movie. I did feel a little like apart from the film. And I think if I had watched this by myself in a theater where it was just me and the movie, I would have a better understanding of how I felt, because what you're hearing from me right now is very raw. I'm not exactly sure like, did I love this movie? Did I hate this movie? Will I ever watch this movie again? I don't know. I'm in the process.
No, and that's a fair point, because I kind of feel the same way. I think this is a movie that you have to sit with, especially like I say, if you're the type of person that's a very thoughtful and considerate person, a person that has empathy for their fellow, human beings and things like
sensitive, that. Right? Just sensitive.
Sensitive. Yeah, I know I am. Then this is a movie I think that you're definitely going to have to sit with for a while. I guess before we kind of end, I did want to talk a little bit about the one sequence that was probably one of the tensest, most intense sequence I've seen, and we hint at it in the trailer with Jesse Plemons.
Yeah, great. He's so good.
It's great. It's a great scene, and he's great in it, and it's fucking terrifying.
It's awful. It's awful. It's an awful sequence. You get, like you said, you get a glimpse of it in the trailer, and you get the gist there, and then the movie just stretches it out.
Yeah, and it's extremely uncomfortable. It's extremely intense, and it's
that's the scene, right, where I go, don't tell me this movie doesn't pick sides. But you watch that
True.
scene, that the
Yeah.
movie is picking sides.
No, and that's true. You're absolutely right. When you see a scene like that, yeah, it definitely has a point of view. But Alex Garland, again, I mean, you look at his filmography, he's not a long and extensive filmography as a director, but he makes very provocative movies that does require you to think and challenges you, which I like. And this movie does that too. So I don't know. Do you think you want to rate it now, or kind of just keep it as is?
No, I think we can rate it, but again, like to me, it's a tentative rating because I'm
Yeah.
still working it all out.
Yeah. From a filmmaking standpoint, I think this is on par with something like Dune Part 2, where when you're looking at all departments, from the cinematography, from the acting to the direction to the sound design. I mean, technically, it's one of the best films I've seen this year, easily, from a technical standpoint.
I do think that A24 stretches its huge budget a little with this movie. Like, I think there are some effect shots,
Yeah.
especially towards the end of the
The
movie,
end.
that
Yeah.
don't play as real as I'd like them to. But,
Yeah.
that's like such a nitpick.
Yeah. I agree. I think there was some, especially in that third act, when you get to like the really kind of big battle sequence. Some of the visual effects, maybe that's why it was at night.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
at the same time, like that final half hour of the movie is about as intense as that sequence with Jesse Plemons.
Yeah.
I was gripping my seat, and like my joints locked up while I was in that theater.
Yeah, and going to like the response from people around us and leaving the theater, that
So weird.
that was kind of disappointing
Yeah,
to hear.
people watch movies differently.
They do, and they like different things, and they
Yeah.
take different things out of it, and to
Oh
each
dear
his own.
God.
I mean, yeah, but I know for me right now, I would give it a B plus if I'm looking at it from a technical standpoint, and just I mean, I enjoyed it. You're right. Is it a movie I would watch again? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the movie that come like you said before, come at me a year from now. Maybe I might have a different opinion on it. I might still be high on it. I may never want to talk about it again, but I just know from a technical standpoint and just from a narrative thematically, it's a very, very well made movie.
Yeah, if you are new to watching B&B movie reviews, you don't necessarily know our rating system. Like, we have a thumbs up and it's B plus, and we have a thumbs down and it's B minus. And like, to me right now, this film engaged me and angered me and
Yeah.
frustrated me in such a way that I go, damn, good job, movie. I got to give it a B plus. Will I watch it next week? Probably not. Will I watch
Yeah.
it next year? Maybe. Again, let's see how this election goes.
Absolutely. So that's going to wrap up the conversation for Civil War. So that's a B plus for me and Brad. We're going to transition before we go ahead and get out of here. It's CinemaCon this
Yeah.
week, Brad, and there's a lot of stuff that's dropping, and there's a hot trailer that everybody's been talking about and reacting to. So I figured we could talk a little bit about Joker Folie Adieu.
Yeah. Okay.
Folie Adieu. Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about the trailer. So I guess I'll kind of kick it off. I'll give you a little bit of context as far as like the first Joker movie came out about 5 years ago, 2019. And I kind of appreciate that movie more than I really kind of love it or like it maybe. And I've been wrestling with like what it was about that movie that really didn't kind of stick with me. And I don't want to be too disparaging against Todd Phillips, because I think Todd Phillips is a really good director. And seeing him transition from comedy to drama, it reminds me of another director, Adam McKay, has done the same thing. But he's that first movie, he talked about a lot about wanting to make a Scorsese film. And it definitely does feel like it's a movie that's paying homage to Scorsese and a lot of those movies from the 70s. But part of me just feels something about that film kind of comes off a little hollow to me. And maybe it's the intent of the filmmaking of it, where I don't know if I necessarily feel or see Todd Phillips' voice or what he was really trying to say with that movie. I don't know. Like, I'm still
I
trying
think
to
talking
figure
about
out.
intent is tricky.
I know,
You know,
yeah, and I know it really is, but it's something that I feel that something, and I don't want to use that word connect with, but just the idea of something that I wasn't really able to engage with the movie in the way that I really wanted to. Now I do appreciate the film because I do think some of the filmmaking is really, really good, but it's just something about that movie just felt I just didn't feel the substance in the way that I thought I was going to feel with some of the things that they were trying to talk about thematically with that movie.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but again, those are my own feelings about the movie. And I'm not saying that it's a bad movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie at all.
I
But
enjoyed it quite a bit when it first came out. I only saw it the one time. I got a little exhausted by the conversation around
yeah,
it, and that's probably why
yeah.
I never revisited the movie. But I actually really enjoyed the conversation that I felt like the film was having about Bruce Wayne's relationship to the Joker, especially in the
Oh,
last
really?
sequence of the movie in the asylum.
Okay.
And I thought that the performances were strong, and obviously the influences were apparent. And Todd Phillips wasn't really hiding that at all. In fact, he was celebrating the fact that it was a Scorsese film, and
Yeah,
how much you enjoy that homage, I think, is going to be, up to the viewer themselves.
yeah,
I thought the movie looked good. I got what he was going for stylistically, I believe. But to me, I think as a diehard Batman fan, I actually
yeah.
thought there was some interesting stuff being explored there about Bruce Wayne's relationship with the Joker, even though Bruce Wayne is not even really a figure in that first film.
Okay, okay. And I'm definitely going to go back and watch the movie this year, especially before I go see Folie à Deux. But yeah, but going to this trailer, man, I loved this trailer. I think it's the look of it. I think the cinematography is gorgeous. The colors, the lighting. We get a little bit of a glimpse of what the story could be. A lot of people have talked about, you know, a lot of this might be in his head, especially when we get to the musical aspects of it. I like seeing the take on Harley Quinn, where, she's not the psychiatrist, but it seems like she might be a patient at Arkham, which feels like it's more in line with what this version of the Joker, what this story is trying to tell with this version of it. So I think that take on Harley Quinn looks like it might fit. But I was just taken aback by just the cinematography of it. I thought it was just a well done trailer, and that last shot it reminded me of the meme that everybody has going back to Scorsese. I see that last shot, and I was like, pure cinema.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the cinematography is strong. I think, one of the highlights of the first film was the cinematography from Lawrence Shear. I believe Lawrence Shear is
Yeah,
also doing the cinematography for this one.
yeah.
I was not as bowled over by the trailer as you were.
Okay.
I'm going to see the film. I'm a comic book maniac. I see
Yeah,
every comic book movie, and I have very strong opinions about Batman stories. Like the Joker and Harley relationship is not one of my favorite relationships in comics.
okay.
And I feel like personally I've seen all those stories, but
Yeah,
I'm open to a new interpretation of that romance if it is indeed a romance here. I love the idea of it being a musical. The trailer only really hints at a little musical quality to it. And
yeah.
if it is only just a little bit of a musical, then I'm less interested in it. I want a big swing here. Let's go full West Side Story, Todd Phillips.
I'm kind of with you
Um,
on that.
and Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, I think that's an exciting combination. I think Lady Gaga with Joaquin Phoenix is an exciting combination.
Yeah,
So I am there, but I wasn't like, oh my god, I can't wait to see this movie. It was more like, I'm
yeah.
gonna see this movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that point. Like, it didn't get me to the point where it's like now it's my most anticipated movie of the year. I'm not there with it. I just, from me being such a technical person and loving filmmaking and cinematography, I was just taken aback by just the look of it. I thought that was really strong. I do have a question for you though, like in that first movie, it was kind of more of a mystery where, and spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen the first movie, it came out 5 years ago, but that when he has that relationship with Zazie Beetz and the reveal that a lot of that was in his head, it's like, now that the cat's out the bag, can you go back to the well with that in this movie and have that work? You
I mean,
know?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'm, it's to me a little odd coming from the Zazie Beetz story to a Harley Quinn story, but we're
Mhm.
doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just don't know how effective that can be because now everybody is already talking about, "Oh, this is all in his head. Oh, this is like, this is a
Sounds to
real."
me like you're spending a lot of time online already, Brian,
I
engaging in
am,
that
I know, and I
conversation.
need to stop. I need help, Brad. Help me.
Yeah, I have not read one person's reaction to the Joker trailer, because I just can't, guys. I can't anymore.
No, but yeah, yeah. So Joker Folie Adieu, that'll be out October 4th. All right, I guess that's gonna wrap it up for this virtual review of Civil War and our mini review of the Joker trailer. Again, if you want to follow me and Brad, you can follow Brad at MouthDork on all the social medias. I'm also at Be Young Video. Go ahead and follow the show. It's B&B Movie Reviews on IG and here on YouTube as well. And we do a main show for our public access county station, PGC TV Online. You can find that on YouTube. That's Prince George's Community Television. We do a main show where it's more kind of Siskel and Ebert-esque when we review about 4 or 5 movies on that show. And I'm starting to kind of put up some mini reviews from those episodes. You can find that here on this YouTube channel. That's B&B Movies on YouTube. So yeah, Brad, thank you again, man, for another review.
Always love talking movies with you, Brian.
Yeah, man, it's always a good time. All right, guys, and until then, we will see you on the next one. Peace.